All right, why don't we go ahead and get started, just because that will make the hour a little bit more exciting with more examples that we can kind of cover. I am Drew, one of the founders and CEOs of Create, and
I'm Patrick. I'm leading ops and growth for Create. Great to see you all.
and today we're going to do a quick lightning session on Create and the ways you can use it to build websites all the way up to full stack applications. I think we'll show off today how to use Create to power your own marketing and be able to build things faster than ever with AI, like landing pages and informational sites. We'll then move on to AI tools you can actually build with Create. And then at the end, if we get a little time for it, we'll try to build a full end-to-end back-end application. As Patrick mentioned, we will feel free to ask questions as we go ahead and teach. Before I get started, I would love to hear a little bit about why people are excited about Create and why they signed up for this webinar. Are there any examples or things you're trying to build yourself that you think would be interesting for us to show today? I'd love to inform the examples we do live, but with things people actually want to build for their business or for personal use.
Happy to share. What's up? I'm Tim. Nice to meet you. I'm a non-technical early stage founder. So, V1 of the little MVP I've got in mind is like a Wordle-esque kind of daily set of 5 or 6 questions to help people unpack the complex trending topics in the news and kind of clarify their opinion and go a little bit deeper, more easily than they might otherwise be able to. It's a smidge more complicated than what I'm able to do in type form, but building a whole thing also seems like overkill at this stage. So
yeah, that's a perfect use case. And I will thank you for speaking up. I will add that to the docket of how you actually build that and Create. But one of our core ICPs we see is non-technical founders, even technical founders who are looking to very quickly prototype experiences, put it in front of customers, get some feedback, or even just launch things end to end on top of Create. So would love to show you how I get the first version of that out. So we had one message in the chat. Let's go ahead and see. When do we get one-off mini sites for special projects quickly? Love that use case. Yeah, we just launched a feature called Style Guides, which I think makes it super, super fast, at least the fastest I've ever seen in web development or my web development career. And it's perfect for when you need to create these one-off simple things. And then we have a redesign a website use case. So I'll go ahead and show that as well with an existing site and how you can make things a little better. Any other examples people would love to see about how you can use Create? We're a horizontal platform, so there's lots of ways you can use this. So I'd love to make sure that we cover the ones that people here care about. Feel free to drop in the chat or speak up. All right. Well, if there's no other examples, Patrick, keep me honest if there's anything else. Let me go ahead and show you Create. Oops. All right, so we are Create. You can find us at create.xyz. We have a very generous free plan, so you can get started building for free. On our homepage, we have some examples of different projects you can build with Create. If you click on any of these projects, you'll also see the underlying prompt, and you can actually fork it to go ahead and get started. So I just want to like to point these out as a way for people to get started. We're up to over 150,000 projects people are making on Create, and it's growing really fast. We started to put together this community page. So it's another way to get inspiration. If I wanted to see what are all the things people have built related to Wordle, for example, I can see what other people have already built, see how they built it, and get some inspiration for how I might build it myself on Create. And so I just want to point out these examples. And then finally, one thing, after at the end of today, you're still having questions after this live build session. We're putting together a pretty comprehensive doc site with all the different ways to build and how the different pieces of Create gets kind of stitched together that you can read. And the final thing I kind of show you is on X. You can find us at create_XYZ. And here we're trying to put together more tutorial content and more just quick little demos that you can follow along with and learn how to build across the board. So the final thing I'll plug on, if you need help after this call with anything, you can join us on Discord just through this link on our homepage. On Discord, we have a pretty active community 24/7. There's even a Help Me Build channel where you can start to build with people and get your questions answered. And then finally, you have our emails, Patrick and Drew. If you can feel free to email us directly, and we will help you build whatever it is you want to build. I'll go ahead and show you how you can build this for free. So when you get started, there's a quick inspiration. I'm going to go ahead and get started with a simple website. And then we'll jump straight into the builder. For here, somebody said they wanted to make one-off websites for, let me look at the chat. Take quiz answers and building user profile, small e-commerce site, not allowed to comment basic forms. Let me go ahead and one-off mini sites for, okay, cool, for special projects. Like, all right, let me just go ahead and make a simple prompt, like make me a mini site for a create.xyz event. We are throwing a tutorial course. We are throwing on Maven, right? So this is a one-off event. I'm going to make a really simple site, but hopefully this helps you see, what's going on across the board. There we go. As you go through onboarding for the first time, I'll show you one of the first features we have that makes building sites that are custom but also look good really, really quick, and that's style guides. So in addition to the prompt, you can very quickly choose a style guide for your project. And what we do is we take your English description, the style, and we actually generate all of the underlying code for the website. And so as you click through these, you can kind of see different versions, but I hope you're seeing that unlike a template or a tutorial site, once you have a style guide and we're adding more and more of these across the board, it's pretty fast to make something that looks good and is actually custom to your specific example. And so as I look through these style guides, if I go none, this will generate you what you would get if you tried to generate a landing page in ChatGPT. But part of the power of these style guides is it just makes it a lot quicker to make the style consistent across things. So I actually like this. I will probably go ahead and roll with it. Unless, Patrick, do you have one that you liked the best of all these?
Let's go Sapporo. I like that one.
Sapporo? Okay, awesome. So when you press customize, that's our quick onboarding. You'll get dropped into the builder and you can make changes. As I mentioned, the cool thing about Create is that this is actually all code under the hood. So if you are even slightly more technical, or if you want to stick this in ChatGPT, you can actually make direct code edits under the hood. You don't have to all do it in natural language. But the powerful thing about it being code is that very quickly you can go ahead and publish it. And so imagine this site was like pretty good. I can go ahead and say, this is my tutorial site, site sign up. And I can go ahead and claim this, and I can go ahead and publish my changes. And I have a direct online hosted domain in seconds. And so just the speed from like a simple description to with a style selected to live is truly just new. But the power about this is that you can actually just iterate in natural language on what you actually want. So from this very small description, it guessed a lot of things of what I want on the page, but I can actually make it a lot more specific. So I can say, and actually, Patrick, could you go ahead and upgrade this account to Pro, maybe? Let me see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch to a Pro account and show you how to do this in Pro. So you can always build new pages. I showed you onboarding quickly, but real fast, I'll say I will go ahead and update my style guide to Sapporo. Save changes, and then I'll say make me a event page for a create.xyz tutorial on Maven, and I'll go ahead and generate that. And you'll see that it will start to generate this live. And what it's doing here is it's actually streaming the code and creating these underlying sections. And as it's actually working, I can go ahead and add more to what it's doing. So I want to also show the following things: a banner with what it is and why you should join, an in-person sign-up form to register for the event, and maybe a testimonial section of what previous participants said. And I'll go ahead and regenerate it. And with a couple of those like additional information in the prompt, it will just very quickly update the website with those sections and go ahead and build for me. So you'll see it's adding in the like banner. It added my like why you should join section. It added my inline previous participants testimonials. And I can continue to add more details from here. So if I wanted to like get the testimonials exactly right, you know, I could actually go ahead and say these testimonials should be, the first one should be from Patrick Coleman. The group was great, a little long-winded, but otherwise informative, right? I can also, in natural language, start to say things that like, you know, I would typically need to look up the code for. So, you know, here I can say like, you know, on the left, like UI, right? And I can say on the left, show the main sections. On the right, show some images of previous Zoom sessions, right? And like as a developer, that would probably take me a little bit of time to figure out like how to actually build. But in Create, it's pretty fast to have this actually update. And we will actually go ahead and AI generate the Zoom sessions for you. So give me 1 second. So you'll see it's like updating to my spec. It's including Patrick. It's also making up a couple of other things. And then it is going to go ahead and stick in the actual images. And for now, it's going to AI generate these images, but you can very easily replace these images on your own using our assets tab. And so you'll see like it's pretty fast to iterate and come up with something that's close to what you want. Part of the power of style guides is it's also fast to spin up additional pages. So here, you know, I have this like create.xyz tutorial on Maven. Maybe I want to make an about the speakers page. So about the speakers page, show Drew and Patrick talk about their job titles. Drew is CEO and founder. Patrick is ops growth. And we'll just go with that just to get this quick demo. And what you'll see is on this infinite canvas, you can work on multiple pages of the same site or just different iterations of the same site. And with the same style guide applied, you actually get things that look consistent across all the different like pages that you're doing and the different components you're doing. And so it's going to make up an image for Drew and Patrick, which is not quite right, but I could go ahead and replace that. And you can, you know, continue to add details to build out this page. And so that's part of like the power of using style guides. On free, we have, we're up to 11 style guides now that we've built. You can also make pages that are in your own brand on our business plan. So if you convert to business and reach out, we can make you a style guide that actually makes things very similar to your exact style. 1 second as I update this. For example, this is how we do a lot of our marketing pages on Create itself. So if we go to create.xyz/privacy policy, this page was actually built on Create as a Create page. And actually, we just gave it a Create custom style guide that looks similar to our brand. And it's very fast to kind of spin up these pages as needed. So that's simple websites. I think that's like the basics. From here, create actually gives you all the same power your developer has. So let's go ahead and take one of these cards, or speaker cards, right? If I actually click on any of these, you'll start to see a few things that are interesting. So on Pro, we actually allow you to customize the design controls through specific like design controls. And so I don't know if you have a sense, Patrick, of, actually, let me just go ahead and upgrade to Pro. Oops. Enable. Oops. Subscribe. As I upgrade that, I'll show this off. I'll show you another feature that we kind of have available. So you can go ahead and click on any of these elements to go ahead and convert it to a component. And so I'll go ahead and convert this speaker card to a component because I want to get it like just right. And while the style guide is interesting, I would love to update it a little bit. So if I press convert to component, and now you'll see the design panels here actually. So before we convert to a component, I'll show you the power of these design controls. So you can like very quickly change it in design controls. So here I'm changing the padding of the card. And what this is actually doing is it's actually updating the underlying code. And so you don't need to like see where in the Tailwind and where in the styles it's updating, but it is actually updating this underlying piece and making it more exact. But besides these one-off changes, the best way to kind of update it is to convert these things to components. And so when I press convert to component, the power of making components is that you can reuse the same UI across different parts of your application or pages. And so here I'm going to go ahead and make a speaker card. And I'm going to describe, what are the different arguments of the speaker card. So there should be the name, the title, inputs, and I can describe the UI, right? Like a circular, we generate you a little bit of a spec here, but you don't have to use this, right? This was unique to me, but if I'm going to make a component out of this, I can just go ahead and make a simple thing like a circular avatar for the speaker, description in bold font. No, a title in bold font, and then a quick description of their background and italicized, centered. And you can create variants. So if you're familiar with like design variants and the rest of these things, it's pretty fast to say like enable a highlighted speaker, which inverts the colors of the speaker card. So very quickly, you will see it update the underlying code for the component. And for those of you who are slightly more technical, what's actually happening under the hood is we're just making a React component for this piece of this web app. And so we can very quickly define arguments, define variants, define exactly how the UI looks. And then we're freezing this component as a core, as a like piece of React code that then you can reuse across the way. So I think now that this is done building, I'll show you this. So you'll see that in my like actual, what it's doing under the hood code-wise, it's actually creating components like name, title, background is highlighted. It's showing me the different component styles, and then it's actually building this underlying component that I can now reuse. And so in my component, I can very quickly see like, okay, cool, this is what a highlight card looks like. This is what happens with different titles and different speakers. This is what's going on. And now I can use my component across my project. So instead of calling this Drew's profile, this is what it's going to be called, my speaker card. And now I can actually build, I can take this about the speaker and say about the speakers page. So make me an about the speakers page, use, and it'll update here with the component I'm going to use after I convert it. But just to show you how to find your components, you can press / and go ahead and pick a component you made, like use speaker card. And now I can just say show for speakers. And now I can quickly go ahead and give info. Patrick growth and ops highlighted, Dhruv, Leo, Zaria, designer. And it will go ahead and update as I update my component. There's my speaker card. Let me go ahead and generate again. So we'll go ahead and generate, like, now using my specific component. And in each case, it'll use the same UI for the component card, and it'll start to replace like the information with the actual data that I actually want. And so as you build components, you can really start to make UIs and front ends that are like exactly what you want them to look like. And you can start to embed components in other components. And again, the powerful thing is like, at the end, this is all full live code. And you can get this to run and work pretty quickly. So that's simple websites with style guides. I can show you quickly that you can change the style guide and have it look different. I think the next kind of piece to understand, and then I'll kind of jump over to a couple more examples that we got asked about, like how would you build AI tools or the Wordle example, is that in Create, it's possible to actually build full end-to-end experiences. And so it's not just front ends. In this case, I wanted to actually like register for the event. In Create, we actually have the ability to include databases and functions as well, which approximate backends or the ability to send data somewhere or have someone else do this. So here I'll go ahead and say store the registration details for the event in, and I'll go ahead and make a database on the fly through our slash menu. And I can just say events attendees. And regenerate the page. And what this will start to do is update the actual event attendees and the hookup to actually store this information on this form to a database. And so if you're familiar with the old way of making databases, I didn't have to set anything up. I didn't have to like hook up, oh, this piece of the UI goes to this part of the database, and the database should have this schema and like have these things, all which is like really difficult. I just have to kind of describe in natural language what I want it to do. And the AI will figure out the underlying code and how to set up a database that has the right format and pieces for what you wanted to go do. Maybe here I'll say, I'll also say, after it registers, show a thank you for registering. And I'll go ahead and rebuild that. By the way, one thing I just want to point out is like we are storing the full version history of everything you build and Create. So if Create ever doesn't do exactly what you want, you can always go back in time and pick an old version and retry it. So what I'd tell you in general is like be aggressive with your prompting, see if it works. It's probably much faster to do that and then jump back to an old version that works than it is to try and get everything exactly right. That's why I'm like pretty aggressive. You'll see it when I like try to like get these things to like kind of work. While we're doing this, I'll show you that you can also kind of like work in parallel. So while I wait for this to build, part of the power of an infinite canvas is like I sometimes am like waiting for this to build. I'll like be turning my header into a component. I'll be like making my separate page, and you can very quickly like jump around all at the same time. But now you'll see my like register for the event. I'd probably, if I was being honest, go back and say this wasn't good enough from the UI perspective. But just for this demo's sake, I'll show you like Dhruv main, Dhruv create XYZ, submit. And now I went a little quickly here, but we have two modes. Build mode lets you like basically build things and click on things and edit the actual underlying code. Demo mode lets you actually try these things as if it was a live web app. And if I publish this web app again, so tutorial, create. I'm gonna go ahead and make this is the about page, and publish the changes. You'll see that it actually does work live. So if I visit my live link, this is a full end-to-end application. And it's not just a static website. It actually does submit and actually work on a live link. It also now is multi-page. So if I go to my about page, you'll see that it also has my speakers and my like quick site. And so in a little less than like 5 minutes or 20 minutes, we're able to kind of go end to end on multi-page consistent designs with full backend code. And just to kind of show you that this is full backend code, if I actually go look at my database, right, and view my underlying data, you'll see that it actually did store my name and email this time in my database for my attendees. And so I can go ahead and download the records or, rename and delete the database or update records as well. And so that's components, databases. We can show functions, but I'll pause there. Like we actually have, if you guys are familiar with backends, we can do that. I think one thing that's also cool about code.
Someone did just ask about that.
About functions?
People have asked a couple times about functions and external APIs. So
amazing. Yeah. So actually let's show external APIs. Let's go do that. So let me just look at the chat real quick. So do we have a prompt guide? Yes. Okay. Yes, we do have external functions. So let me show that because it's actually kind of cool and makes sense for this use case. So let me delete this page. Let me think about what makes sense as external function. Patrick, do you have a good idea of like for this event page, like a function to send the event person emails?
I think make.com is a good one with the webhooks. And then you can send like emails or download to Google Sheets or send data to your HubSpot CRM or any of these things.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a function that's going to take my event attendees and it's going to talk to Zapier because actually we pay for Zapier at Create, and then is going to like use Zapier to talk to a bunch of other functions. But the big thing I want to tell you is like functions are like a very general purpose primitive. You can use them to do a lot of things. You should think of them as like a piece of code running in the cloud. And usually they need 3 things. You need an input, like what do you want your function to take in, and like output and like an action that's going to do, and then like what do you want the data to kind of send back. So let me go ahead and say like this is a attendee emailer, right? It's going to take in an email and a name and a job title. Come up with a customized reason why they might like Create using, and here I'm going to go ahead and pick a function. So actually you can use our integrations. So here I'm going to go ahead and use an integration that's just built into Create. In this case, I might just use Sonnet. And so in addition to like functions you can create on your own, in our Create menu, we actually have a bunch of integrations that you can use out of box. These range from AI integrations, which I use in my tool example, but they can also be client-side integrations and a bunch of things you can do as well. So like come up with a customized reason that might like Create like from Sonnet, and then I'll tell it like send a webhook to Zapier with this information. I'll pause there, and then finally return the attendees Cool. So I gave a quick like spec of this function, and what Create will do is it will actually go ahead and generate the backend serverless code to do this. We also, for more non-technical users, generate on the fly a diagram of what's actually happening, so you can quickly inspect the logic without needing to like jump into the code. So here I'll take in an email, a name, and a job title. It's going to get a reason they like Create from Claude. Natural language is pretty powerful. I can go ahead and say like Create is an AI app and site builder. Come up with a good prompt, right, for this. And then it's going to send the data to Zapier as a webhook, and then it's going to return the email, the name, the job title, right? Just to let you know, like, it's not magic. It's like just trying to take my description and as close as possible turn it into running code. And so if we looked at the code of under the hood, what is this doing? It's going to take in these arguments. It's going to try and return to a webhook URL. It's going to try and come up with a prompt here of here's what you might like create, and then it's going to send the responses all back as like a full piece. And if I update now with my updated spec, it will do a better job of doing all these things. Now, one thing you might notice in the code is that it doesn't actually have the Zapier webhook URL, right? So in Create, we actually on functions have the ability to store secrets and the ability to test functions. And so in order to call out to an external service, I usually need to give it some information. That can be the API key of that external service. That can be, in this case, the webhook URL of the external service. And so I will go ahead and go to Zapier and set up a Zap that will let me do something interesting. So let me create a Zap. They have AI now, but let me go ahead and use webhooks by Zapier. And the event is going to be catch hook, right? And then the action is going to be, and let me email this to myself. I think I'm already in this. Send an email. Continue, right? And so now I'm setting up my Zap. Great. And so now that I have this Zapier, it's going to give me this webhook URL. And you'll see that like it needs to just say send data to this webhook URL. This is how Zapier connects it. If you have an API that it wants to call to, you could like stick your key in and then tell Create like send data to this API endpoint. However, your external service wants to talk to Create, you can do it with a function. So in the Zapier's case, I'm going to use this webhook functionality. And I'm going to go ahead and I could update the code directly and stick this webhook URL in here, but that wouldn't be secure because then people could see the code. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as a secret. So I'll say, this is my Zapier webhook URL with this value. And I'm going to go ahead and regenerate my function. And now on Zapier's end, we are going to go ahead and test this. So just make this a little bit understandable for people who are more technical of what's actually happening. Now that I saved that secret, you'll notice that it actually is using my secret in the underlying code. And it's using that secret securely. So it's not exposing that secret to everybody else. But now that it's using that, this might actually work end to end. So I'm going to show you real quick. Now, if I send this with Patrick Coleman, Patrick at create.xyz, his job title is ops and growth. And I run this function. We can use our test runner to test the function in isolation. And then once we know our function works, we can end to end. We can then go use it in our end-to-end app. And so you'll see that it's running right now. And as we view the details, it will go ahead and give an output of null and still running. And here is at the end, the output that we actually wanted to do. So we see that the Sonnet thing worked. But our custom reason is Patrick as an ops and growth professional. You'd likely appreciate, Create. I could make my like version a little bit better. But let's go ahead and connect it fully end-to-end with Zapier and make sure that part worked. So at the end, it's outputted this information. It ran for 14 seconds to call it to Sonnet. And now we're going to use on the Zapier side test trigger. And if this worked, we should have gotten this information on Zapier's side. And so Zapier shows you that we did actually get this information. And that's cool because now that we have this information on Zapier's side, we can connect it to any of the, I think Zapier's up to like 7,000 integrations. I could show you them that Zapier is already connected to, including Gmail. And so I can go ahead and say, you're going to send email. I'm going to do it with my email account. And you're going to send the to Patrick. And you're going to say the body is going to be my custom reason, right? And this is not the best custom reason today. Like if I was really doing this as a real example of sending to my event attendees, I'd probably spend a little bit more time on my like customized prompt on the create side to make and test this a bunch of times until I get like my like exact like wording as I'd want it to be. But just to kind of show you it works end to end. Once we've hooked this up, let's see, what am I missing? Body, oh, subject. Hi, thanks for attending the create.xyz event. I'm going to say custom reason. Approve. Continue. And we can go ahead and test this end-to-end step with this. So test. And sure enough, I think Patrick should have gotten an email from my email. So I'll go ahead and send my sent mail.
I just did.
And so I'll show you, I sent Patrick an end-to-end email. So now I have a full end-to-end application. I was able to connect it to an external service with Zapier that could then connect it to Gmail. The cool thing is if Patrick actually goes to my site, create tutorial. I think that's where I publish this. Let me make sure I remember that. I view, publish, view live. If he goes, and if I now register, prove mean. Oh, wait, we haven't integrated this end-to-end. Sorry, this is just a function, right? So the cool part is now like making this actually work end-to-end. So we have this function, it's working. Now the final piece is adding this to our actual site. So if I look over on our site, you can actually say store event registration details for the event and event attendees, but I can also say, let me update this, logic, and use my function I just made, which is like attendee emailer to send them a message. And here I can get a little more specific. I can say collect name, email, job title. Go ahead and send that. And yeah, as we're waiting for this to load, you'll see that create actually knows the context of all these different pieces. And so I actually said like collect name, email, job title. I probably didn't need to. It probably knows that the attendee emailer kind of needs that, and it'll update the UI appropriately to do this. And now it should just work end to end. So as I publish this, I view this live. Let's go ahead and do a live demo. So now it's going to be true. Emails true.create. I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Thanks for registering. Check your email for more information. And this whole process should be happening end to end. I think the automated AI to come up with a message is going to take a little bit, but I'll show you in a couple of seconds that it kind of worked end to end. So you've now kind of seen all the core primitives of create. This is like a really simple example, but it's really powerful. You can start to build truly full end-to-end, full stack applications from here, all just using natural language. We also have user auth and profiles, so you can make authenticated experiences. And there's a ton you can kind of do with this. I will want to pause. I'll show the like aha moment of like, wow, it actually went end to end in a little bit. But there's probably two last things I want to show. The first is AI tools and how you can make them really, really fast. And I think that these end up being pretty appealing to people because there's a lot that you can kind of go ahead and do with that. So with this, I might just turn off the style guides. So I'll go ahead and say no style guides, or at least a simple one. Okay. I'll show a couple of things that are kind of interesting. So like make me a blog post generator or create with oops. It should take in a keyword topic. UI left form with info on article, keywords, targeting. So, so I'm going to go ahead and show just what the base version with like, without describing too much, I'll show what it will actually come up with in this case. And then I'll show you how you can kind of iterate quickly on your AI tools to make them even better. Why are we slow? So while this is running, I'll go ahead and say, take in a form. Cool. So this first version finished. While it was going, I started working on the next steps that I wanted to go do. But the first version from just make me a blog post generator with Sonnet gave me this. It gave me like, what's the topic? What are the keywords? What's the tone? What's the post length? And then generate blog post. This will work end to end in Create. And so I can go ahead and test what this looks like. So let me, oops. One thing I'll show you is on Pro, we'll let you build with multiple models. So I can have 2 versions of Sonnet running, or I can have GPT, or I can have Gemini, or any of the models that people are making actually build my app for me. And what this helps for is like multiple versions of the blog post generator. But here I'll like give a quick demo and say like my topic's going to be teaching courses on Maven, keywords, courses, tone's going to be casual, 500. 3,000 word count, and generate a blog post. But now I'll start to like iterate on what I want my blog post generator to actually like do and work on. So this is actually details, right? Take in form with keywords, topic, and 2,000 words. Show the blog post in the right and the form on the left. Let me do build, show, loading as the AI model loads. Show the final output in the preview section. And now I can go ahead and rebuild this underlying blog post generator. And get it to be more exactly what I want it to actually be. And now when I test this in demo mode, teaching a course on Maven, keywords will be Maven courses. And this should just return the results from the AI model. Not sure why it's taking a little bit longer right now, but this is the problem with live demos. While we're working on this, we have errors. So let's actually try and use a different AI model and see if it works. So ChatGPT, and update it. I'll show a couple of other things that are kind of interesting and cool that we have here. We have a bunch of integrations that actually help you do things that take a long time in code. So we have a markdown renderer that, for example, that could like display the markdown of the blog post directly. We also have Google search integrations. So I could actually build a like search thing that actually looks at the search page and then tries to use that to inform my blog posts. Or finally, we even have a web scraper built in. And so I could like use the web scraper to actually grab a page and then inform the topic I was going to write about. And so pretty quickly, you can build these powerful AI tools. These work really great to drive organic traffic to your own site as free tools you can offer. They work great if you're trying to automate a process end to end. Under the hood, we're doing the same things your developers would do. We're working on the UI. We're actually working on sending it to the underlying model and then go from there. All right, and then while I'm waiting for this to load, I will go ahead and, by popular request, because the first person that asked wanted to know about Wordle, you can very quickly prototype things as well. So this one might actually be fun to turn a style guide on for. So I'll use noon, and I'll say, and Tim, I forgot, what else on the Wordle experience do you want to kind of go do?
And yeah, actually earlier I built a Wordle and yeah, it took 30 seconds. The other cool thing would be to build a user profile. So, mine's in the context of the news. So do you agree or disagree with what Elon Musk said yesterday and have those insights about people's opinions over time start to compound and build like a Myers-Briggs-esque thing for them?
Oh, interesting. Is that a different app or the same Wordle app?
Same thing, just kind of piggybacking off of the daily ritual of Wordle, but questions about the news instead.
Okay, cool. I'll make a Wordle-like experience that asks me daily questions about the news. Grab news headlines from Google search. Oops. Show the headlines and let the user input an opinion. Save the opinion in the database. User opinions, right? We actually have user auth, but it takes a little bit to set up. So I will skip that for now since we're coming to the end, but I'll just show you quickly like how fast this would be as like an entrepreneur to quickly prototype, get something in the hands of users and be able to test from there. When you're done on Create, you can obviously publish these things and have them live live. You can also export the code. And so it ends up being a pretty good collaboration medium with your engineers or with your designers, because at the end, the artifact you actually have is the same code that they're going to try and run. So what's your opinion? CNN breaking late news. So I think it grabbed from like the Google search headline, whatever it is. So you'd have to probably prompt this. So like by searching news today and grabbing top 5 results. And this will kind of go ahead and store this end to end as a little fun little like app that you could use to prototype this experience. Cool. We're at 10 minutes left, so I'll pause. There's a lot we covered on how to build sites and end-to-end applications. Is there anything from the chat that we should cover?
Someone was asking about image generators, and they were asking about like different sizes and things like that. I don't know how specific we need to get, but just we quickly show like the DALL-E and Stable Diffusion integrations. That's probably helpful.
Yeah, we actually have DALL-E and Stable Diffusion baked in, so you can make your own like white labeled image generation like services. So here I'll just go ahead and make an image generator for DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. Compare results side by side. But the short answer is yes, you can make your own custom image generators that you can use for all sorts of purposes. Maybe you want to build like logo generators for your business. Maybe you want to build blog post content media generators. Maybe you want to build a simple, cool first tool. Create just makes it really fast to build these things. And it's still building, and then I will go ahead and look at the underlying code. Anything else?
And that's about like moving off or staying. Like when would a company like move off of Create, or would you like keep running your app here?
Yeah, it's interesting. Our goal is to actually fully like stick with the customer for as long as possible. But the powerful thing about having code is like you're not locked in, and we don't plan on locking you in. So Unlike other no-code tools, like, if you wanted to, you can take the underlying code and scale it up. But on our enterprise plans, we can handle most scale. So assuming you can get to a good output on Create, like this can just be the platform you build it on. But it kind of depends on your use case. So some people use this for marketing pages, in which case those pages just live on forever and they're able to build this. Other people use this more as like a prototyping tool. And so really a lot of their usage is coming from showing people like different versions and like as a design tool a lot faster than they could in Figma or in other tools. And then ultimately people are building like apps that they actually do want to use. And then in those cases, we have enterprises plans that scale up to like even the biggest amounts of usage that we can handle on our infra. Any other questions?
Scroll back to the chat. Oh, maybe show Figma to Figma screenshot to an app.
Yeah, what's the question?
Talking about using create an enterprise context, and they use Figma extensively in design, so wanted to know how that could interact.
Yeah, so we are huge Figma fans ourselves. I don't think this is a replacement for Figma. The big difference between us and Figma is like this is actually generating the code. And so it ends up being a really powerful prototyping tool on top of Figma. I'll just show you this really quickly. So like I showed components earlier. We actually have our own brand system. Our design system that our designer made in Figma. And there's probably 3 cases I think that are really powerful with Figma. The first is, it's a really quick way to prototype entire screens. And so what should I show? Imagine my designer had showed me the Figma mock for our homepage. Oops, let me go back. Ink, which she actually has. And if I think about the product in action, so she's designing some new things in Create, and she's got this cool upgrade for Stripe modal. And imagine I like wanted to like prototype this, right? So it's got this like cool switcher and this cool like variant. It's pretty fast actually to do that in Create. So I can just create a new page for it or a new component for it and say, make this. And then talk about the things that I want to be interactive. So like as you click, the highlight should change, make the month year switcher actually change the prices by giving a 20% off annual plans. Have a fun left to right hover effect on the yearly switcher, right? So I'm just showing how like it can kind of work in concert. So it can very quickly give you a working demo or something that's close to, oh, sorry, my style guide is still on. So it's going to try and redesign this in my style guide, which I think someone earlier was asking for like, how do I redesign my website? This works really well. So you can actually go to an existing website, pick an image of it, and then pick a style guide, and it'll redesign it in this style guide. In this case, this is not what I want, although it's kind of fun. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the style guide and refresh this generation, which should just update it.
Dhruv, this is Ajay here. You had talked about the code being generated in React, the front-end code. Does it also allow you to generate the code in other languages, or is it only React all the time?
Today, it's only React in all time, and that's because we're actually trying to auto fix the code in order to basically have you never see that something went wrong as much as possible, and actually see like something that's pretty exact. But yeah, today it's just in React.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so from here, you can actually make this like more specific. So like you can say, make this more exactly regenerate, and it will probably just keep iterating until it's exactly right. But this is one big way people use us plus Figma as like a faster prototyping tool that actually can get these things to be interactive and working with a few upgrades. The second way people use us is actually in creating their own design systems on Create and then stitching those design systems into bigger components. So in Figma, your designer has probably already designed a design system for you. Let's see here, there's buttons. I think there's like 60 different button states that Zarya has designed. And so I can go ahead and copy this as a PNG. And in Create, I can say, make a new component, which I did already. And I can say, make all the variants of this button with the image. And this will quickly give me a component that I can then go use in bigger versions of design. So 2 quick ways you can use us with Figma. Probably need to do a little bit more iteration here on image to code to get this to be right. But oh, it's a little better. So if you're in demo, you can start to like, play with these things and show someone very quickly what you're imagining or how it should work. And if something's off, you can always take a screenshot of it in Create and tell it to just fix this. I think that's the power of like accepting images and text is it's pretty fast to just be like, this is wrong. Update it to be all centered.
This is a quick question. Is it a right assumption that it's one prompt that we are keep editing, enhancing one prompt to get the things working? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So the way to think about it is, yeah, we have this spec on the right that you're kind of like building up as you and iterating on. And every time you press this generate button, the purple button, we're sending the spec plus our own wrapper prompts and everything else we're doing around it and the current version of your code back to the language model to actually try and update. And then we're also giving the language model the history of changes that you actually have. And so it's like very quickly trying to get you to a better version of what you're intending. The other thing we have is this retry button. And this retry button basically takes your current spec and just imagines you have nothing existing and tries to like one-shot generate it all over again, which can be helpful if you want to like break out of the current version you're in. But typically we see people tend to like use these 2 buttons to very quickly like get to the right format of what they want. And then finally, we have these like different slots. So, oops, my buttons kind of finally came in. But we have these different slots. So you can kind of see all different models at once. So like in this case, GPT actually did a better job than Sonnet of translating the image to code. And so I can like very quickly hop between different models and different versions and say like, actually, this is like a lot closer to what I wanted. Or actually, this is the closest. And so I'll go ahead and use this version and now continue to update my spec from this version and get 4 different models kind of working together to speed it up. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
And someone else asked about editing the code and then going back to the prompt and wanted to know that that gets saved.
Yeah, so let me show that. That does work. It's a little wonky today. So there are some times where once you edit the code, you then update the prompt and then it overwrites the code. But we are literally, as we speak, working on this right now. We're about to release something that fixes this problem. So we're going to basically remember user changes from any context within Create. So you go edit the code, you go to our design panel, and you like update one of these controls on any one of these pieces. Oops, I'm in demo mode. Let me go to build mode. Let's make this not Roboto. Let's make it righteous, right? And we're going to remember, okay, the user actually updated this. So now in the future generations, make this all feel consistent. One final thing I show is like one of the powers of like the code and working on like code up is like things like this, like these hover effects, like small hover effects, or like, how should this actually feel as somebody like does a quick switch, are pretty fast to get working really well in Create. And at the end, just you kind of have the code to kind of go from there. Awesome. Any other questions? I know we're at time right now. There's a bunch more you can do in Create. We just showed you like a quick greatest hits highlights. Thank you so much to everyone who asked us to build something live. I think it makes it a little bit more interesting than if we pick our own examples. One last time, we have a Discord community that we're starting to build. You have Patrick and my email, so just ping us if not. And then I really think the community page is starting to quickly become a very fast way to learn. So you can sort by like last created, and so I should be here pretty soon of like the things I was making today. And you can go see the underlying projects. You can fork these and see like, old versions, and see how people did things if you like them. And so as people are more and more people are building on Create, we are getting ever more powerful at building things end to end. And really where we're going with this is we want Create to just be the end-to-end idea to full creation tool. We're about 9 months in, so we've just been building the kind of like the basics, but we're very quickly trying to get to the point where you can just say something like, build me a pricing page, and Create can just build the entire page with all the components and all the switchers and all the logic kind of built in. So tune in, it's only gonna get more powerful from here.
So Dhruv, one other question, like you showcased whatever you took from Figma and you built it, right? And you also talked about making changes, and that is a work in progress. So what in case if I have a working Figma model and you use that as a basis, copy all of that information in Create, and then ask Create to enhance the models or keep on feeding more additional requirements to build newer pages or changes, will it be able to take care of that?
Yeah, so we haven't yet built like a full import that makes this super easy, but the way I would do this today, the way you do this is you would basically build components. So I'd probably build this pricing module as a component. And if I go to my component spec, I can like go convert this to a component. And then once I have my components from screenshots in Figma, stitching them together into like net new pages becomes really, really fast. So you can like go say like, okay, now this new page is going to use my header component, my banner component, my whatever component.
Got it.
And you can like start to like make net new screens without having to like re-specify every single time. The second way that we can like make that really fast is if you sign up for a business plan, we can actually make you a custom style guide. So we can take in your Figma mocks and we'll make you a style guide that's not like one of these, like Nara, Tokyo, Kyoto, Sapporo, Noon. We'll make one that actually just matches your brand guidelines. And then when you arbitrarily create pages on the fly, everything will like default match your
Got it.
style. And then from there, you can like obviously make components and make it even more exact and more specific. But that's another way that people use us to like interact with Figma and make things that are like full end to end and matching.
And how does the enterprise plan work?
Yeah, so I'll show you my quick pricing. So although I'm not sure if this is in the vein of educational content. Sorry, guys.
Sorry,
No
just
worries.
curious.
Yeah, no worries. We have a super generous free tier. In the free tier, you can build one AI model. In the pro tier, which we also try to price as cheaply as possible, it's just $20 a month. You basically get the ability to build all the models, and you can start to make some projects private, which really matters to businesses. And then at the business tier, we start at $99 a month, and we offer full default private projects. So if you're working with lots of clients or you're working with your internal styles, whatever it is, we also can make you a custom style guide on the business plan and start to do custom domains. So if you want to host a Create Made app somewhere, and for any of our API built-in integrations, we give super high rate limits. And then finally, for the enterprise plan, it basically scales up for there. So if you want to roll this out amongst a team, the biggest thing we do on the enterprise plan is we offer trainings like this. And so we offer those services. We also have more security. So bigger companies, we have things that make it more secure for larger companies, and like SSO and some of those permissions and roles. And then, yeah, we can do custom rate limits. So if you need an app on Create, like we had one use case where like a public library is building a tool that on Create that needs like 100,000 user sessions a month. And we can handle that scale on the enterprise plan.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the info.
Great. Anything else in the chat, Strava?
No,
All
I think we
right.
got everything. No.
Well, I think we've got everything. Well, I just want to say thanks everyone for taking the time out of your day to learn how to build on Create. We're still quite early, but it's an entirely new way to build, to just build a natural language. What we're most excited about is that it's opening up entirely new types of builders. So we're seeing everyone from entrepreneurs to project managers at agencies to go-to-market folks to designers. We're actually for the first time able to build with full code and make things that are like very, very real. And so if you make something cool, please let us know. And if you run into any issues, please reach out. We know we need to do a lot more education around how to actually build a natural language to make things that are really quite powerful on your own. So feel free to reach out. I think Patrick has posted some of our places to find us in the thread. And thanks again for the time. Really appreciate it.